Hello, we were talking about the concept of density function importance. So let's revise the concept once again before we move on to the ergodic hypothesis in statistical mechanics. So as we have defined, the density function is defined as the number of representative points per unit volume of the phase space. So mathematically, the density function is represented by the symbol rho, which is equal to dn by d omega, where dn is the number of representative points contained within the small elemental volume of the phase space d omega. So we can write dn, the number of representative points within the volume, within any given volume d omega, will be equal to simply rho times d omega. So let me call this equation for the timing as equation number 1, where d omega can be written as, for an 6n-dimensional phase space, it can be written as 3 d raised to 3n q, representing the physical volume, and d raised to 3en p, representing an elemental momentum volume. So the quantity rho is in general a function of the phase space coordinates q and p as well as that of time. It can be a function of the phase space coordinates q and p as well as that of time. So what it means is that the phase space density has got a spatial dependence. A spatial variation can be expected. This is in general expected. So the dependence on q and p, the phase space variable, denotes the spatial variation in phase space. Variation in phase space means from point to point of the phase space, there may be some changes in the density function, and the dependence on the density function on t denotes the temporal variation of the function. Temporal variation. Temporal means variation with respect to time. So we have to clearly understand that these two variations may be different. So what is meant by spatial variation? Spatial variation means if you study the density function of an ensemble, see that at different points of the phase space, say qp is different, then there may be a difference in the distribution of the representative points. So at some points of the phase space, the representative points will be crowded, but at some other points the representative point will maybe farther apart. What's meant temporal variation means at the same point in the phase space you go on observing for an interval of time. So that's the meaning of temporal variation. So you focus on the same point of the phase space and you are observing what happens to the phase space density over the time. So then that is known as what that gives you what is known as the temporal variation of the density function. Okay, so we'll just come about these two different types of variation when we discuss the Lively's theorem in detail. And for your knowledge, the density function is also known by several other names like distribution function. Why it is known as the distribution function, you can understand because the density function in a way denotes the way in which different microstates are distributed in the phase space. Okay, so it is also known as the distribution function. Otherwise, you know that these all microstates are representing the probability of a system being in a particular state. So it's also denoting the quantity known as what physically the probability density. So all these quantities or all these names are suitable for the function rho, which is a function of q, p and t. So we could define what is rho as the number of representative points per unit volume of the phase space, representing a system, okay, or a system or an ensemble. Now, using equation number 1, we can have an alternate definition of the density function. Okay, so we are going to use equation number 1 to have another definition of another mathematical definition of density function, which is given just as the second, okay, definition here. So let's see how it is defined. So density function is defined as a function. You know why it is not as a function? Because its value varies with qp as well as time. So it's a function such that at any time t, means you are fixing the time. So now the function okay, is depending only on q and p. So you already have fixed the time variable. So we have to now focus only on the spatial variation. So it's a function such that at any time t, the number of representative points in the volume element d omega, around the point qp of the phase space is given by the product. It's given by the product. What will be the product? It will be given by the product z rho d omega, rho into d omega, which is equal to rho into d raised to 3n q d raised to 3n p, since omega is given by this relationship. Okay, so I think it's quite a clear concept, a mathematical the statement of equation number 1 in its meaning. So you know that, see, suppose as I have been just showing in the previous sessions, say that this is some phase space. So you have got the P, you have got the Q here, let it be 6n dimensional, but I'm representing it in 2 dimensional right now for the time being. And let me represent distribution of representative points. I'm just okay representing the representative points here in the phase space. Let it be just something like this. So you can understand that here for some arbitrary system, I'm just showing it. Suppose that you take a very small part. So you take a very small part of this phase space. Taking a very small part of the phase space, say that I'm taking a sample cell. I'm taking a sample cell here, right? So this sample cell is having a volume equal to d omega. So this is an elemental volume. Okay, you can just take it like it's not just 3-dimensional. It will be in general, you know, a 6n dimensional okay cube, right? So that is d omega, whose value is given by equation number 2. Now the question is that how many representative points will be there in the volume d omega? Okay, so how many representative points will be inside the volume d omega, and that number is denoted by dn. Okay, and see, in order to get the number of representative points in this volume or any arbitrary volume, what we are supposed to do is that we should know what is the value of a particular quantity known as density function at this point. This point means there will be a particular value of q, there will be a particular value of p. So for this particular point, there will be a particular value of q and particular value of p. So then I should know what is the value of the density function at this particular point, around which the elemental volume has been considered, right? And then you have to multiply the value of rho at that particular point with what? The elemental volume d omega. Then you will be getting the number of representative points inside, okay, that particular elemental volume. So that is the meaning. Now means you take, for example, you are interested to know what is the number of representative the region here at a say d at some other d omega somewhere else. Okay, now what do you have to do? Then you have to know, you are supposed to know the value of the density at this particular point. Okay, at this particular point. So the point, there will be a value of q and there will be a value of this particular point. You have to know the value of a quantity known as the density function. So density function at this point, then by multiplying value with the d omega, you will representative within this particular. So you can clearly see that suppose that I'm taking somewhere here. Okay, suppose that I'm taking an elemental volume somewhere here. See that here as per the diagram there is any not even a single representative point, but that then you can see rho at this particular point there is not even a single representative point within that volume. So it means that that particular volume is actually inaccessible to the system. Means the system will not be able to access any microstate which is lying outside, okay, the given region. So that means that there is no probability, not even see there is no any probability that the system will be found in that particular microstate. That's the meaning. So the density function in a way gives you an idea about to what extent say a particular microstate is what probable or to what extent different microstates in the accessible region of the phase space is what probable. So we can say that if the representative points in the phase space are crowded at some region. Suppose, for example, I am just now trying to make or increase the density of representative points over here. So you can see that if the representative point is so crowded in any region of the phase space, then I can say that if you take a small elemental volume over that at this region the value. So most of the microstates in that region will be having high probability to get occupied, or the probability of occupancy of those microstates lying in that phase space region will be very, very high compared to a region where the density function has got a low value. So the density function in a way represents the probability. Okay, the density function in a way represents the probability that a given microstate or some particular set of microstates is getting what occupied or not. So if the density function for any particular region of the phase space is 0, means that that region of the phase space will never be what occupied. In any course, it will not be occupied by the system. So the density function clearly gives you an idea about the occupancy, the chance of occupancy of certain microstates, right? So that gives you about the behavior of the system in general. So I think the second definition now it makes sense. Actually, the second definition is a mathematical form of equation number 1. Actually, so it's a mathematical statement of equation number 1, which has already obtained from the basic definition of the phase space density. Now, the phase space density, what's the relevance is that the phase space density represents the way in which various elements of the ensemble. So be very careful about the terminology. Elements of the states a system
statistical mechanics where quantities are interpreted as in terms of probability, we usually come across two kinds of averaging. And when do we go for averaging? We go for averaging when there is some sort of a distribution, when we expect something is dynamic, right? Okay, if the results of some quantity is going on varying and we want to get a representative value for that quantity, we usually go for what is known as the process of averaging, taking mean, right? And now see, a physical quantity can be measured in statistical mechanics by using two kinds of averaging, and one is very familiar to you, what is known as the time averaging. And what is meant by time averaging, you know that. So usually what we do, the actual measurements what we do in our labs are just nothing but time averaging, is not right? Okay, because you will be observing certain variable over a period of time. You go on taking measurements at different instance of time. Okay, and then what do you do? If you want to get the average value of that quantity, you sum all the values and you divide by what? The time interval, okay, or which you obtained it. So that is what we call as what? The time average. So the time average of a quantity, say I'm taking an observable. So let f be some phase space variable, fqp. Let that be some phase space variable. So maybe it is also depending on time, of course, okay? Otherwise there is no meaning of that time averaging. So f is a phase space variable, qpt. It can be the energy, okay, it can be any other physical property, z. So fqpt, I'm taking fqpt as the observable or a physical quantity. So let that be an observable, dynamic observable, okay, or a physical quantity, some physical quantity, whatever quantity we are of interest, physical quantity, like say the energy of the system. See, then the time average of this quantity is usually represented. It is usually represented by you can just use any symbol. I'm using the same symbol, okay? So this symbol f of qpt, f of qpt, that is given by, so I'm just writing it's equal to, so let me write that it is time, only to denote that it is time, that is equal to, I can denote by some f bar for the time being, f bar. So that is equal to 1 by C t2 minus t1 integral over t1 to t2 f of qpt dt. So this is a very common definition that you are familiar already with for any quantity. Okay, so for example, you think that, say, we used to calculate the time average, okay, or average, the time average of physical quantities when we were dealing with SHM, which is having a constant time period. Then we wrote that quantity as 1 by capital T into integral from 0 to T capital T, the time period, because there's a repetitive periodic motion. So here, if we are making the measurement, so what's the meaning of this particular expression that you have to clearly understand? See, the meaning of this expression, let me call it as equation number 1 for the time being, is that you are measuring a physical quantity F. You are measuring a physical quantity F, which is varying with the time, whose value is going on fluctuating with the time. So you make a large number of measurements. Okay, say at a T1 you measured one value, you got F1, T2 you measured another value of the same quantity, you got another value F2, okay, T3 you got a value F4, T4 you got value F5, like that. So for the same quantity, since it is fluctuating over time, you go on summing it up. So how do you get the average of that what? Over the time. So what you need to do is that you have to just go on adding F1 plus F2 plus F3 plus etc. up to Fn divided by T1 plus T2 plus T3 up to what? Tn means all this time. But T1 plus T2 means what? You have to take the time interval, right? So the time interval you are supposed to take. What is that? Duration for which you have measured. Okay. So if
see that you have to get the very the critical value of this particular average. What you are supposed to do, you can see if the time of measurement, the time interval of measurement of each of this quantity T1, T2, T3, they are all very small, then you can go for instead of addition, you can go for integration, so which is represented by this particular thing over here. So you can see that this particular thing has been just representing the addition of this quantities what I mentioned, and then after see you have to integrate from the initial time up to the final time. So that is what showing. So this is representing the summation of the quantity. Then you are dividing it by the interval over which you have varied. So that is by, so you are dividing by this quantity. So this is representing what is known as time averaging. So remember, what the usual lab experiments or actual experiments are nothing but what time averaging, because you make you go on taking observations and then just over a passage of time. Now for example, let me something in terms of our probability concepts. See, suppose that you want to just check what is the average probability of getting a head or getting a tail. So what you do in the tossing of an unbiased coin, so what you usually do is that you toss, you take a coin, you are taking an unbiased coin, you toss it once, you note the results, okay, you toss it again. So now the time passes, you toss it again, you got another result, you toss it again, again and again, until maybe it's a sufficient number of times you are tossing the same coin, right? Okay, suppose that you are tossed the coin some 1,000 times. You are tossed the same single coin 1,000 times over with the passage of time, right? And you get a number of results. Suppose that you got the 500 and 540 heads, and you got some the remaining 460 tails. So this is the result, suppose that you got after tossing the same coin again and again with the passage of time. Then you will say that the probability of getting a head and that of tail is roughly is equal to what? 0.5. Is not 0.54 here, of course, okay, and the probability of a tail is, you will conclude that that is equal to what? Some 0.46. That is a probability. So roughly it's 50-50, right? The percentage is 50-50, right? Now instead of doing this one, can't you just do it another way? Can't you imagine the same experiment to be performed in another way? How do you do that? Okay, see here, you know that you waited for the time to pass on and the same single coin was tossed again and again, right? Instead of that, you can I think you got the idea, you can just do the same results can be reproduced, okay, is it not? By doing the experiment in another way. What is that? You keep the time fixed, and imagine that you are able to get 1,000 identical coins. Imagine you are able to get a collection of 1,000 identical coins, identical in all respects, okay, so which are just like the copies, right? Almost all the coins are copies, but I want all the coins to be exact replica of the original coin, just like some virtual copies, right? And you have got a bunch of 1,000 coins with you all at a time. Hope you are getting me what I'm telling. Okay, instead of repeating the tossing experiment with a single coin tossed 1,000 times with the passage of time and then taking its average data, what you're going to do this time is that you initially have, okay, a bunch of 1,000 coins all ready to be getting tossed in the identical fashion, and you perform the tossing phenomenon all of a sudden at the same time t. And remember, I'm telling you that at the same time t, you toss all the coins. Don't bother whether you are able to do in the same manner altogether. See, let there be some mechanical arrangement to get the coins tossed. Don't worry about the physical restrictions over there. Just think about it. So you have a collection of 1,000 identical coins which you are tossing at the same instant, and you just look at the result. How many are head and how many are tail? and there is no any justification to expect an outcome which is different from the first outcome. You know, okay, we will be getting by the principles of statistical mechanics or by the principles of simple probability theory, whether you toss the same coin again and again, okay, with the passage of time and you analyze the result, or you have 1,000 coins tossed in the same manner all at a time, the results should not be different. Okay, and why it should not be different? There is no reason, because that is the way in which we are defining probability. Okay, that is why we believe in a fundamental postulate which is known as what? The probability, equal a priori probability. Since we don't have enough information to think other way, since we don't have enough information to believe other way, we take it for granted that the probability of getting a head and the probability of getting a tail in any experiment of tossing an unbiased coin will be equal. So due to that reason, whether you toss the same coin time and again, or you toss 1,000 similar coins all at the same time, the probability result should never be different, right? And the second example is what we mean by the concept of ensemble averaging. Okay, so we took a collection of identical systems. Here the system is the coin, right? We took enough number of coins, right, which are actually, we have a single coin and we take its what, a large number of identical copies. So this is the same way in which we are defined for the statistical system. We consider the original system along with all possible microstates, all possible mental states, or possible virtual copies of the system, and that virtual collection is what is known as an ensemble, like our 1,000 coins at hand. And you make a measurement, you perform a measurement on this collection, using this collection at the same time. Then you get some values, okay, and you average it over the entire ensemble, then that averaging is known as ensemble average. So the averaging performed over a statistical ensemble is what is known as what? The ensemble average. Okay, so I can define the ensemble average. See, the ensemble average is of any physical quantity is defined mathematically. Let's see that how it is defined. The ensemble average. So the first one is time average. Now it is the ensemble average of the same physical quantity, that also I'm representing as just QPT. Let's say this QPT ensemble. That's, I'm simply representing it as this way. Okay, so that is defined as, it's defined as integral, this is the definition, integral f of QP. You see that now I need not focus on the time dependence of the quantity, because why I think I clearly understand why, because it's now I'm performing it over at a particular instant, so the time dependence can be neglected. So even if there is a time dependence, we are doing it at a particular function at a particular instant. So f of QP, nothing wrong in writing f of QPT in general. Okay, so I have to multiply this one with what? The density function, that is rho QPT. Of course, okay, we have to take the same value of t where the value of f is taken. So I can say that if you want, you can just put t also along with this f. No problem. See, you have to do this over d omega, or the entire available thing, divided by, so you know that this integral is nothing but an addition. Integral is nothing but an addition, okay, which is weighed by the function f, okay, or weighed by the density function rho. So divided by integral rho QPT d omega. Integral rho QPT d omega. So this is the definition of what? The ensemble average. You might have seen similar definitions in quantum mechanics also. Okay, it's a very general way of defining over an ensemble. right? And I think you can clearly understand what is the quantity at the bottom. So you can see that the quantity here, this particular quantity, integral rho qpt d omega in the denominator is actually performing the role of this t2 minus t1, or the time averaging. Instead of time averaging, here what comes is this quantity. And instead of this particular integral t1 to t2 integral, this particular integral has come. Okay, so you can see that now this quantity has been integrated over the ensemble. How it is made sure? You can see that here the phase space volume d omega, it's integrated over the relevant region of the phase space volume, where rho, the density function, is having a non-zero value. Means we are taking all those accessible microstates where rho is not equal to 0, right? And we make a physical averaging of the function f of qp, whose value has to be obtained. And what is actually the denominator? You can see that this denominator, this is representing nothing but the number of members in the ensemble. Is it not correct? Why? Because we have seen that rho by definition was dn, the number of representative points divided by d omega. So what is this dn equal to? Therefore you can see that rho d omega, which we have seen earlier, is nothing but dn. Or what will be, on integrating both sides, you will be getting, therefore integral rho d omega is nothing but n. What is n? N is the total number of members in the ensemble, total number of elements in the ensemble. And you know, each element of the ensemble represents what? An accessible microstate. So n here, or integral d rho d omega, see, this is the same thing. Integral rho d omega nothing but represents what? The total number of elements in the ensemble. Okay, total number of elements in the ensemble. So what's it, this ensemble average physically meaning? So in the numerator, what we are doing is that we are summing up the value of f of qp averaged over or weighted by the density function. Okay, the value of f of qp weighted by the density function over the entire accessible region of the phase space. We are adding. It's a summation. Okay, like we have time summed here, it is what summed over the accessible region of the phase space. And in order to get an average, what you do? You have just divided by per member of the ensemble. Then that is known as what? Ensemble average. Since the denominator is representing the total number of elements in the ensemble, which is equal to the total number of accessible microstates for the system, we call this one as what? The ensemble average. What will be the value of that quantity per system, where there are n systems, not n system, actually a one system with n minus 1 identical copies. So that makes the ensemble. So n is here, the denominator represents what? The number of elements in the ensemble. Always remember that the denominator is representing the number of members, elements in the ensemble. I'm just trying to explain what is the physical meaning of these equations in the ensemble. Okay, and the numerator denotes the total value of that quantity for those members of the ensemble. Here also you can see that rho d omega is there getting multiplied. So actually it is nothing but what? The summation of that quantity measured for that n systems. So there's a sum. So this is the ensemble average, right? So for the time being, try to understand that there are ways in which the averaging can be done for a physical quantity in STAT. Okay, one is known as what? The ensemble average, and the other one is known as what? The time average. So I think it's quite easy to understand the concept if you recall the example of tossing coins that I have explained. See, whether you toss a single coin 1,000 times and find the probability of getting a head or tail, or you do the same experiment by performing 1,000 coins all tossed at the same time and doing, and there is no any reason to expect the result to be different, right? So that same concept has been taken over to a higher level to define the time averaging and ensemble averaging. Okay, and what do you expect actually? Tell me, what do you expect actually? So whether you do the time averaging of a physical quantity F, or you do the ensemble averaging of the same physical quantity F, okay, the results in principle should be the same, right? And that is known as the famous ergodic hypothesis. That is what is known as the famous ergodic hypothesis. One of the fundamental beliefs, one of the fundamental postulates in StatMech. Okay, one of the basic beliefs on which the principles of statistical mechanics, ensemble formalism of statistical mechanics has been built. is ergodic hypothesis. Okay, even though there are a lot of arguments that even without the ergodic hypothesis, the principles of stat mechanics can be developed, but this has been dependent on too much in the beginning at least. Okay, so let's try to understand. So what is ergodic hypothesis? Whatever we have expected, the time average value of an observable, the time average value of an observable observable means a physical quantity like f of qpt, what I have defined. Okay, any physical quantity, measured over a sufficiently long time. That is very important. Okay, so you have to wait for such a long time until we get an idea about the variation. Okay, measured over a sufficiently long time, equivalent to. So we use a word equal instead of equal to. We are using equivalent to, because this is for no reason. Okay, this is only based on logic. We don't have a mathematical proof. Okay, for ergodic hypothesis. Okay, this is in the absence of any other information, we are tempted to believe like this. That is why the word equivalent to instead of equal to is used. Okay, even though we will later replace it equal to. So equivalent to the ensemble average. The time average of that physical quantity will be equal to the ensemble average. That's all. Observable, same observable, of course, measured in an ensemble with a sufficiently large number of systems. Means the number of elements in the system should be large enough. That's okay, a very reasonable condition. Why? Because you know that if an ensemble represents what? The collection of all possible microstates. Right? If this collection does not have all possible microstates, then the number n will be low. And if the collection is not having all possible microstates, then we cannot say that the ensemble is a complete representation of the actual behavior of the system. So there is a condition that the ensemble average, okay, should be taken with the enough number of sufficiently large number of systems. Then only the meaning of averaging works. The averaging will give you more reliable results once the number of number of elements in the averaging process is large enough. Or that is the basic behavior of probability, as I have been explaining right from the beginning, that now the probability value will be giving you some reliable results. Okay, only when there are enough number of sufficient data points. More the number of data points, more will be the validity of that probability theory. That is a basic assumption. Okay, so I hope that you understood what is meant by ergodic hypothesis. The ergodic hypothesis just gives you an idea about the time average of a physical quantity, or the long time average of a physical quantity is equal to the ensemble average of that quantity. So now what we are going to do, we are justifying our idea of ensemble formalism. Okay, that's the only idea that why I discussed about ergodic hypothesis, because you know that you have, what is the problem at hand?
Interpreted. So this thermodynamic system can be in a particular microstate. Say that it's in a microstate given by EVN, or it is in a microstate represented by TVN, or it is a microstate represented by mu Vn. Okay. Whichever way the I should have used the word macrostate. Okay, so let all these things be represented by the macrostates EVN, TVN, or mu Vn. One of these, of course, at a time. Okay, I'm considering. If the system is represented by the macrostate variables EV and N, then this particular system, okay, along with its large number of Mendel copies. So you are having sufficient number of its Mendel copies, right? You have a collection. Okay, this system can be in a large number of microstates, so you consider all its Mendel copies. So these are all copies, like the single coin and its 999 copies. This is the same thing, and all these systems are sharing the same EVN, same macrostate it's sharing. EVN, all are having EVN. Then there should be sufficiently large number. Minimum how much? Okay, if all microstates are equally probable, okay, like in simple simple kind of systems, say if there are n number of accessible microstates, then should be n number of
Okay, see that don't confuse this n with what the n that I'm talking. So there are two n's that I'm using now. See, one n, when I'm writing n like this denotes the number of particles in a given system, and when I am using a symbol curly letter n in our notations, remember this is denoting the number of elements of the ensemble, which is equal to the number of accessible microstates. This be sufficiently large when we are taking the ensemble, so that each of the accessible microstate is included in the ensemble, right? A collection of the original system which we have to analyze along with this large number of mental copies is constituting what is known as an ensemble of systems. So this collection is known as the ensemble of system. And if this ensemble is having a macro state represented by EVN, fixed value of energy, fixed value of volume, and fixed value of number, you know that the system is representing a kind of isolated system, then this kind of a collection or ensemble is what is known as the microcanonical ensemble. So the microcanonical ensemble represents an isolated system, right? Because the volume, the number, and the energy all are fixed there. Now, suppose we are not studying an isolated system, instead we are studying a closed system where energy exchange can happen. Then instead of this, what you do that you have the system where temperature instead of energy is variable, but the temperature is taken to be constant. T, V, N are all the fixed. Then you consider